want the Chesapeake Bay to be healthy, but how do we get there? The In Focus team is asking the tough questions tonight, and one of the answers could be what's behind the Conowingo Dam.
It's an issue that has been building up for decades. It's being brought to the forefront now that Exelon's license to operate the dam is up for renewal, and because the pond holding the sediment is at or near capacity. The one thing everyone can agree on is that this won't be an easy or cheap fix. The Conowingo Hydroelectric Dam in the lower Susquehanna River provides more than half of Maryland's clean, renewable energy. But now concerns are turning to a dirty side effect of the dam, a buildup of sediment from upriver since the dam's completion 86 years ago.
It's gotten to the point where some people say it's full.
There's an estimated 180 million tons of sediment behind the Conowingo Dam. To put that in perspective, that's enough to fill 80 M&T Bank stadiums.
During storm events and things, this huge amount of sediment, nitrogen, phosphorus is all released, comes roaring down the Chesapeake Bay with vengeance, and destroys any chance for the Chesapeake Bay to survive.
Ron Fithian is chairman of the Clean Chesapeake Coalition. The coalition is a group of leaders from 9 rural Maryland counties who are pushing for the sediment behind the dam to be scooped out and moved elsewhere. It's a process called dredging.
I'm here to tell you that the Chesapeake Bay today is deader than it's ever been in its life. And we think it's due to the sediment, the concentration of sediment.
The U.S. Army Corps of Engineers is wrapping up a 3-year study on the issue. The lower Susquehanna River watershed assessment was prompted by Tropical Storm Lee in September 2011. The storm sent an estimated 4 million tons of scoured sediment, along with nitrogen and phosphorus, over the dam and into the Chesapeake Bay. Satellite photos following the storm show a brown plume of water flowing to the bay. Though the picture is striking, Colonel Trey Jordan says the preliminary findings of the study tell a slightly different story.
About 20% of the brownness that entered into the bay came from behind the dam. The other 80% we found came from above the dam.
But Colonel Jordan says the study also found that overall, sediment was not the biggest polluter of the bay following Tropical Storm Lee.
Whether it was from behind the dam or upstream that reached the bay, the sediment didn't cause the most impact to the bay. Rather, it was the nutrients.
Still, Chip McLeod, attorney for the Clean Chesapeake Coalition, says the 20% figure should not be downplayed.
Even if it is just 20%, you have to ask yourself, 20%, what's the real number? Forget about percentages. What's the volume? It's a lot of pollution.
The assessment also explored options for dealing with the sediment, including the cost of dredging it. Colonel Jordan estimates that dredging just 15% of it would come with a price tag of anywhere between $500 million to $3 billion.
If you wanted to take all 80 football stadiums out, we don't have a figure for that because it's astronomical.
Conservationists like lower Susquehanna River keeper Michael Helfrich say the issue needs to be studied even further before any actions are taken.
We don't know if it's cheaper to try and address the material upstream or it's cheaper to dredge. We don't know if it's cheaper to do, it's all about finding the most cost-effective ways to deal with problems.
But with Exelon Corporation's license to operate the Conowingo expiring on September 1st, some are pushing for action now. Under the current license, Exelon has no obligation to deal with the sediment, which sits in the 14-square-mile Conowingo Pond behind the dam. The company is seeking a new 46-year license.
The coalition firmly believes that no long-term license should be issued for the operators of that dam without some condition to dredge and then maintain the reservoir.
Anne Arundel State Senator Brian Simonaire sponsored a resolution asking the federal government to authorize and help fund the dredging of the sediment. It passed the Senate but died in the House.
This is something that needs to be addressed now. I think the federal government needs to be involved because it's not just a Maryland issue, but it's a regional issue as well.
The Federal Energy Regulatory Commission is expected to issue Exelon a 1-year license extension, while the company awaits the findings of several environmental impact studies.
You don't want to spend money on something that's not going to be effective, so we want to make sure that whatever measures are taken that they're effective and they're cost effective for all stakeholders.
In the meantime, Helfrich says the states in the watershed should continue the work they've been doing to reduce the amount of pollutants they contribute to the bay.
The biggest problem is that you can't really see improvement that much when you're looking at the body of water. But when you look at the science, at the data, you can see that the numbers have gone down. And I think we can all get there if we don't find just one scapegoat. We keep doing our work, and we make sure that we address scientifically the big issue behind me here.
Exelon has spent $5 to $6 million on more than 30 studies that will form the conditions for its license renewal. The new conditions are expected to include provisions for monitoring sediment levels. A draft of the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers study is expected next month, with the final report due later this year or early next.